Hello, listeners and watchers. Welcome to Marie Lives the Horror. Today I have a special treat. I'll be doing a paranormal chat with a special guest. Her name is Marissa Wight. She has a horror-based YouTube channel, which I will link down in the description below, so you guys can stop by and check out her channel after the video. So, without further ado, Marissa, do you want to say hi to everyone and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, guys. My name is Marissa Wight, and I run a YouTube channel that is fairly new. And I have a few of my own personal ghost stories, and I'm planning on featuring people on my channel and doing kind of like interviews, asking them about their personal paranormal experiences. I also have a series called Weird Wednesday where I go over just different weird things in history or conspiracies, anything horror or creepy. So yeah, that's pretty much what it's about.
Cool, cool. Okay, so just to get into, covering a few different paranormal topics, some horror-based topics, and then hopefully we can share some creepy stories.
Yeah.
I know you shared some of your personal stories on Weird
Yeah.
Wednesdays. So, so in general, I know I mentioned to you before, it's a pretty broad topic, but what are some of your main thought points about the paranormal in general, like the field and everything, and so
I
many
mean,
topics.
so a lot of my videos are kind of coming from a bit of like a warning aspect. I believe that you can be interested and experiment and all those kinds of things, but I think a lot of people go into it really blind and they can have a lot of problems because I believe that it's as real as you and I are. I believe the spiritual realm is 100% there, and there is a threat there if you're going into it kind of uneducated, and a lot of people do. So that's kind of why I wanted to share some of my videos, was not to say like, hey, don't dabble in this stuff and don't, if you're interested, do it, go have your EDP sessions, do whatever you want, but just kind of educate people on how to like protect themselves and warn them on what to do and what not to do to make sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to them, because I got pretty dark there for a minute for
Hmm.
myself. So but yeah, it's super interesting to me. I don't necessarily know what I believe as far as like what exactly happens after you die, or like all of the nitty gritty. There's a bunch of different theories that I would actually like to cover on the topic,
Hmm.
but it's just interesting to kind of research all the different theories of why the paranormal realm exists and what it
Yeah.
is.
Hmm. And there's so many different things. I mean, there's ghosts, there's like other entities, there's aliens,
Yeah,
alternate realities,
yeah,
interdimensional stuff. Like, there's
yep,
so many things, that have to do with the paranormal.
exactly.
And it
It's not
happens
just
to
one thing.
so many people. So,
Mhm.
what do you think? There's so many people that have had like different experiences, like many people throughout, a broad spectrum of time. They've
Mhm.
um there's been like a high rise of people going through different experiences. Why do you think that there's so many people just experiencing things? Do you think that like our minds are perceptive to certain things? Do you think we're connected to something else that, like, is it energy? Like, what do you think it is?
So I think that everything is energy, so that plays a big part in it. I think that as a child, the reason why people are so susceptible and open is because they're not conditioned to be closed-minded or be fearful. And I think that's why, for me as a kid, I was so open and susceptible, and I wasn't afraid. And then you grow up, and then real life hits, and you're taught science, or that those things are just stories and they're not realistic. And so people, I think, either follow that lead or they don't. So I think as time goes by, people are becoming a lot more open minded. In history, I think a lot of people were scared to be criticized, especially like going back to like the witch trials and stuff. If you thought that there was anything going on, nobody wanted to speak on it. People were constantly getting criticized and scrutinized on
Hmm.
their beliefs. And now, moving forward, I feel like as a society, we're just more open minded to everything.
Yes.
So people aren't
Hmm.
as quick to just jump in on a bandwagon and call somebody crazy. So I think a lot of people have been having experiences throughout the entire history of the world. I
Hmm.
just think that it's easier for people to share now, and they're not going to face as much threat or repercussion as they did throughout
Right.
history.
And
So I
there's
think
so
maybe
much
that's why.
Right, and there's so much connectivity now, because now we have
Hmm.
phones. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has a
Technology.
camera. Everyone has a way to record audio, like, to
Yeah,
catch actual evidence,
exactly.
and there's just so much research now that
Yeah,
people can do. There's so much access. There's the internet. There's this connectivity that it
yeah,
makes it widespread.
for
So,
sure.
so do
Technology,
you
I
think
totally
that
agree.
do you think that that connectivity could maybe be another reason as to why so many people say that they experience something? Do you think like it has a line of hysteria behind it, or do you think that mostly it's genuine?
See, that's hard for me because I try to not. If someone comes to me and tells me their story, no matter how far fetched it is, no matter how crazy it is, I try to not disbelieve somebody. But that's not to say that maybe. Sorry, I had a gnat floating around. Maybe there's not something actually going on, but I try to look at it from a skeptical approach always, even my own experiences. Um, I think that there's a small percentage of people who lie for attention or just to lie, but I think the bigger percentage of people are either genuinely having true paranormal experiences or they're having experiences, but they're just not paranormal and they haven't been debunked.
Mhm.
So I think that lying people are like a smaller because I don't like to believe that. I think that there are always going to be people out there that are full of it, but with all the proof and how genuine a lot of people come off, it's hard to say that people are just making things up. But I do believe that it
Mhm.
does happen for sure.
Right. Okay. Okay. So let me see here. I have notes. So let me see. So based on you starting your channel and everything like that, and you going more into Weird Wednesdays,
Hmm.
what do you think is your favorite um basic topic that you love to cover? Whether it's horror or paranormal, like what's your favorite topic?
Probably paranormal, because I feel like it's so broad.
Mhm.
So I do a few. I just started, I don't have that many, but I do have things planned. I have a few like true crime type of things planned, but mostly I want to stick to paranormal, unexplainable, more UFO. Yeah, that's considered paranormal, but more like
Mhm.
spiritual, like
Yeah.
ghosts, entities, more of like this planet, I guess that you could say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I'm interested the most because those are the things that I'm most familiar
Oh, okay. Okay, because it takes on like a personal thing with
with.
you.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Okay, and it is a very, very popular topic.
Yeah.
My most popular series on my channel is the true ghost stories. There's a
Yeah.
fascination with people wanting to hear other people's experiences. So
Yeah.
it's one of the most popular things.
I feel
Um,
like for me too, like it makes me feel like I'm a part of a community and a little bit more validated when I was going through the things I was going through to have people to relate to and connect to. So I think there's a
mhm,
lot of people out there that enjoy that kind of stuff. And either they've had it
yeah.
happen to them or they just find it interesting.
Yeah, it was also one of the reasons that inspired me to want to narrate stories. Because
Hmm.
when I was younger, when I was even a teenager, young kid, there was no one that I could talk to. Like, there was
Hmm.
no one that I could tell, like, okay, this happened. What happened? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, but now that I'm an adult, I can sit down with my own family and tell them like, oh, this happened, that happened, this happened, and actually be more open about it. Because when you're a
Yeah.
kid, you're like, where do you go? Like, you don't know where to go, you know?
Yeah. And then a lot of the times people don't believe you because they think it was just your imagination and things like
Yeah, it's
that.
easy to be discredited when you're a kid, you
Definitely.
know. So based on everything that we've talked about, um, do you have any questions for me about anything paranormal or?
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious to know what made you want to start your channel and what interests you in all these kinds of things.
So I've always been a fan of horror since I was a kid. It's something I shared with my mom. She introduced me to the horror genre, and I remember watching movies and reading stories, and we both really loved it.
Hmm.
And basically throughout my whole life, I've had stuff happen to me, like stuff I've experienced, and but I've always like been a very conservative, like reserved person. I never
Mhm.
told anyone about it. But now that I got older, my sister-in-law inspired me to share my stories and tell people
Yeah.
about what was going on. And so I started doing that, like just writing out a few things that happened, and people reacted to it a lot. And then I started to reach out to different narrators on YouTube because they wanted to share. I had one narrator that shared one of my stories that happened to me. And I'm like, oh, I can, I just thought I would want to do that. And so
Yeah.
um, I started with just sharing like a couple of my own stories towards the beginning of a few of my first videos on my channel. And then I started talking to my family, and they started telling me stuff that they were experiencing. And I'm like, oh, I can turn this into a thing. Like at
Yeah.
first in the beginning, it honestly started out as a hobby, like because I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
But then I started getting so many people sending me stories, telling me that they wanted to share their story with me, like they wanted me to put their story out there to either help other people, or they wanted to be a part of a community that was supporting them in whatever happened to them.
Yeah.
So then
That's really
after
cool.
that whole thing started, I've had my channel for a little, it hasn't been a year yet, but it's been at least over 6 months now. And I really enjoy telling people stories,
Yeah,
narrating
you're good at
stories,
it.
and I don't judge anyone. I take everything at face value because I wasn't there. I didn't experience what you saw. I didn't hear what you heard or how
Yeah.
you were feeling when it happened to you. And I find it really interesting. And it also took a personal aspect too, because yeah, I remember not being able to share with anyone about stuff, or I didn't
Mhm.
think that I could, because I mean no one was going to take me seriously.
Judgment. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So it's easier to just let it go and hope that it wouldn't happen again, or just stuff like
So
that.
isolating though.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be really isolating, and it just kind of, you feel like a little bit defeated, and just
Mhm.
letting it go is the easiest way to try to
Yep.
move on, you know.
Definitely.
So, but now that I'm older and I have more knowledge about different kinds of stuff and have done research and listened to other people and how they dealt with it and everything, like, you figure out a way to just deal with it and
Yeah.
stronger, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but yeah, what inspired me was being a conduit, for other people, a
Yeah.
platform for other people. Like I really like, I have other series, I have strange and unusual stories, which that's like aliens, monsters, creatures, unsolved
Yeah.
mysteries, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I love sharing people's paranormal stories.
Yeah.
So,
It's really cool.
yeah. So okay, so with that being said, I feel like I say that a lot. Do you have, I know you're gonna continue to share more of your own stories on your channel, and
Yeah.
you're planning to go deeper into it. Is there
Mhm.
a brief paranormal story that you would like to share with everyone?
Yeah, sure. Let me try to think of one that I didn't share already because I just posted a video a couple days ago, which is a part two to
Mhm.
my ghost story. Um, but yeah, I can share one with you guys. Um, so if you already watched my first ghost story, then you know like the main one. But I don't think that your audience has. So I'll go ahead and
Okay,
share that one.
I'll link it down in the description so they can check out that
Yeah,
video.
because that's the most intense one that I have. That was like the big cherry on the cake for me that sealed the deal. So basically, in a nutshell, I had all these little things that were leading up to this event throughout my life. Just little paranormal things, super normal, like, well, they're not normal because they're paranormal, but super like, um, I guess, common, like footsteps and door knocking and random stuff like that.
Mhm.
But once I got into my teens, it started getting worse and worse, and I think I personally was in like a mentally low place, so I was more susceptible to this kind of stuff. And I was sitting in my room well, in the spare bedroom downstairs of our two-story house, and my sister's room was upstairs above me where I was, and I was in like the office.
Mhm.
So I was waiting on my boyfriend at the time to come pick me up. I was home completely alone, and all the doors were locked because I always grew up watching like true crime and stuff like that. I was super paranoid, so I knew that it was just me in the house. Yeah,
Mhm.
that it did some good. Like I got some street smarts from watching
Yeah. You
on
gotta protect yourself.
yeah. So basically, I walked up the stairs and went to my sister's room to try to find a jacket that I thought that she had taken from me. So I go in there, I'm in the room, everything's normal. You know, it's like it's a kid's room, so it's like kind of messy, but like it's pretty normal. And I see like these really cool like Mountain Dew bottles or like throwback ones, and they have like all these cool designs on them. And I picked one up, and I'm like, wow, how cool is this? And I put it back. I got my jacket, and that was it. And then I went back downstairs to my room, well, the spare bedroom. So then I go back in the spare bedroom and I start playing my super, super loud, like emo music. So like really, really loud and intense. And I'm just on MySpace because that was, you know, the time. And I start hearing all this like thumping and stuff. And I'm like, oh, my mom and my sister must be home because our dog didn't bark. And we have one of those like little yappy chihuahuas at the time.
Mhm.
The dog didn't bark. So I hear all this thumping and I'm just letting it happen. I'm on my MySpace, chilling, not thinking anything of it. And then it just starts getting louder and louder and louder. So then I start to hear what sounds like doors slamming, drawers, like really intense
Wow.
slamming noises. And I'm like, oh, they must be in a fight. Like my mom and my sister are fighting right now. So I turn the music down and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And, you know, are you guys good? Whatever. And it kind of stops. And I'm like, oh, is that like, are they home or, you know, what's going on? It has to be them.
Mhm.
So I just kind of keep going, turn my music back up, because in my head, I'm not even thinking, you know, is it something paranormal? Is there someone in the house? I'm like, that has to be them. It has to be them. And so I keep going, keep listening to my music, and then I hear it really loud and intense where it's like shaking the ceiling above me is my sister's room. And it just sounds like someone
Oh
is
my god.
jumping up and down. And I was like, okay, this is insane. So then I turn it off and I'm like, Mom, Jamie. And I walk out and it stops again. And I realize because I can see out of the front of my windows that no cars are in the driveway. And I'm like, oh shit, they're not here. Nobody's here. And so I see my dog, and my dog is looking up at the stairway, and she's
Mhm.
just snarling, and her hair is standing up, and like
Yeah, she knew
I,
something was there.
she knew, and she wasn't barking though, because if it's a human being, like my dog will freak out. No
Yeah.
barking, just like snarling and shaking. And
Oh
so I
wow.
had my phone in my pocket. I snatched my dog up. I ran outside. I ran down the street and called my mom. She ended up coming home, called my boyfriend, and everybody ended up meeting me at the house. And I knew in the back of my head, like, it's probably not an intruder. It is probably an entity because I had been dealing with things. So I didn't
Mhm.
jump to calling the police because I'm like, oh, I'm going to call a police on a
You
ghost.
had
Like,
more
no,
experience then that you knew it wasn't like a human being.
exactly. I had a hunch. And so we walked the perimeter of the house. Me, my mom, my uncle showed up with my mom and my sister and my boyfriend. No signs of forced entry. Everything was locked up. Everything was secure. And so obviously the front door was open because I ran out of the front door. I didn't lock it behind me. I was just out of there. So we go back in the house. My mom, my uncle make their way up the stairs. I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs. And then my mom's like, oh, very funny. And I'm like, very funny. What do you mean? And the first thing that we saw when we went up was this giant stuffed cow. It was like a really big one that stood up off the ground pretty high. That my
Mhm.
sister had won at the fair when she was little, and it was kept in the spare bedroom upstairs in the closet. And it was just kind of peeking its head around the hallway, like towards my sister's room, almost to like get our attention to go that direction. And
Mm.
I thought that's all she was talking about. I'm like, that's so weird. I didn't put that there. Like, I was just up here. I would have had to walk right past that. Like that was the spare
Yeah.
bedroom. And the spare bedroom door was open, light was on, closet door was open. So obviously, like something was in there and pulled it out. That's all I thought it was. That was enough for me to start freaking out.
Yeah.
Then my mom goes to push open my sister's door because we could see that the light was on. And when she went to push open the door, she kind of struggled a little bit. And this was kind of like my alibi because she had one of those stand up fans and the fan had fallen over. And the way that the fan was positioned against the door was it was all the way backed up against the door and then her little nightstand. So when she pushed it open, it was like all the way up flat against the closed door. So how would it have gotten there unless it fell on its own from the
Yeah.
inside, or
Weird.
somebody pushed it over and then went out the window? It wouldn't. I don't see how like that could work. So she pushes the door open, the fan moves, and then everything in the room is just a mess. I mean, the bottles that I touched with
Wow.
my own hands were completely balanced upside down. Her blankets were strewn off the bed. Her DVDs and CDs were everywhere. Pictures were flipped upside down. Things were just thrown everywhere. The room was trash. The drawers were open. I mean, it was like a tornado hit the room, and I had just been in there. I always get chills. I was
Wow.
about this.
Yeah, I'm
And
getting chills.
it was hands down the craziest experience I've ever had in my life. I've had a ton of other small things before that, even some after, but that experience right there, it was life changing because it validated everything. I mean, there was no debunking that, and the fact that I sat there and listened to it happening and didn't register in my head like that's something paranormal. I really just thought it was my mom and my sister.
Yeah.
So it irks me that I was just sitting there vulnerable to anything, whatever was going on, whatever was in there could have easily came down. And I forgot to mention, I heard before I snatched at my dog loud booming footsteps coming from what sounded like that direction of the upper level of the house down the hallway towards the stairs. So I heard like boom, 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 like heavy footsteps, like as if it was coming closer
Were you
to the
standing
stairway.
at the bottom of the stairs, like, when your dog was looking up? Is that when you heard the footsteps?
Yes. So once I got to the bottom of the stairs and saw my dog staring and snarling, I knew that something was up there. I knew I could hear it. But then once I got to the bottom of the stairs and I was just so taken back and looking at my dog and looking up in that direction, then I started to hear footsteps. Well, it sounded like footsteps or some type of banging that was getting closer to the opening of the stairs. And I didn't want to stick around and find out what the hell was going to come
No,
around that.
definitely
So I
not.
grabbed my dog and I was out. I did not. I wish now I kind of wish I would have stayed and watched,
I don't blame you for running away.
because I'm like, yeah, but I was scared. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what would have happened? Would it have just stopped? Would it have disappeared? Would I have seen something? Like, I'm so
Can I ask,
curious.
do you think that it waited until you were by yourself because it specifically wanted your attention? Ooh, that's so
100%. I know. I have chills talking about it. It's so crazy. I mean, I I felt targeted for sure. My family was experiencing things when I was home, and some things would affect them too. Like I shared in my last video of the door knocking situation with me and my sister. I kept hearing a knocking on my door. She kept hearing a knocking on her door. I thought it was her. She thought it was me, and then it happened to us simultaneously. We both like flung our doors open. Little things like that, you know. Yeah, the doors. Something was knocking on my door and her door at the same time. I kept hearing a knocking noise, and I kept getting up, and I would answer the door, and nobody would be there. I thought it was her. Then it eventually ended up happening to both of us at the same time. So we like flung our doors open at the same time. As soon as we saw each other's faces, we were like, "Oh, okay, it wasn't you." Just full experiences like that all the time. Like it was always something. Something was always going on, to the point where guests didn't want to come over to our house because they would say things. My mom's ex-husband would see like shadow figures and stuff, and I never saw like shadow figures myself, but he saw them like pretty often, and other people that had come over to like just spend the night or hang out and experience things, and so people were afraid to come hang out with us at our house. So yeah.
Wow. So, was it always at a particular place where you lived, or did this happen, like, randomly at different places where you lived?
It was always, sorry if you hear crickets. I have a Chinese water dragon, and his cage
Oh.
is right over here. So his crickets are making noise right now. But it happened wherever we went. So my mom being young and having, she, my dad passed away before I was born, and my sister's dad passed away a few years later. So she had it pretty rough, and so we were constantly like moving back in with grandma, and she was trying to get back on her feet, and it was really rough. So we moved a lot, like a lot. I think wherever we lived, we moved around a lot, a lot, a lot, and wherever we went, something was always happening. If I'd go stay at my friend's house or anything like that, things would happen kind of wherever I went. So that's what made us believe that it was kind of directed at me. And I don't know if I necessarily like I don't think I believe that I like brought it upon myself. I think that just since I was a little kid, my mom said that there was just weird things kind of always going on, but it did affect the people around me as well.
Hmm.
So I wasn't the only one that was being messed with, but I kind of felt like it was my fault.
So it was
Or
like
like,
you felt like it was coming from you, like you were the main focus of everything, and it
yeah,
branched out to everyone else.
exactly. Like little things would happen and people would witness it, but most of the time as something was happening, it was like directed at me.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so then it made me feel like, what did I do? You know?
Yeah.
So I explained in my last video that I did have an interest in this stuff because I knew it was real. So I did like EVP sessions with my friends and things like that. And I think that made it worse
Hmm.
because I was going into things kind of blind and uneducated. But I don't think I started it. I started getting interested in that stuff because of what I was experiencing. So the more that things would happen, I'm like, oh, this is intriguing. Like, this is real. So then I would try to like investigate. And I don't think
Hmm.
that helped the
No,
situation.
it in a way, it kinda opened a line of communication for
Exactly.
whatever it was. If you're sensitive to certain stuff, it's just like a door, and they gonna run through the door and try to get to you. So
Exactly.
and I believe that definitely can happen.
Oh, yeah. And once I shut that door, which I told my viewers I'll be sharing that in a later video, I want to do like probably like a three-part series. I will explain to them what I did, how I took care of it, and he kind of handled it. And I haven't had any experiences since. I had one experience I thought was paranormal. It was actually an earthquake.
Oh,
It's actually
no.
hilarious. I'm gonna share that on my channel, but I freaked out. I got in my car. I think my boyfriend were like gonna go drive to my parents' house. I was so upset. I'm like, no, not again. I thought I took care of this because we live in like a really old home. We have like
Oh,
one of those old swinging doorbells, and the doorbell was like
mhm.
swinging like crazy. And I was like, it's back, but like I haven't really
It's
experienced
back with a vengeance.
seriously, but I haven't experienced anything that's like malicious or super crazy like that in a really long time. I
That's
found a
good.
way to close the door and control it. So yeah, but before I realized how to control it and how to put my boundaries, it was yeah, it was frightening to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, I'm sure when you were younger, because when you're a kid, you don't understand it at all.
I wasn't so much afraid of it when I was a kid. It was almost like normal to me. And then once I got a little bit older and started to learn and educate myself, then I realized, okay, this is not normal. This is
No.
actually scary.
Mhm.
So yeah, the older I got, the more scary it became.
How old were you when you first started to realize, like, okay, this isn't normal. I need to do some research. I need to
Um,
try to find out what it is. Like,
I would say when I was probably around 15 or so, um, my preteen years, things started happening, but I still wasn't like super, super afraid. I was still doing my little, me and my friends would like drive to cemeteries because it was fun and like EVP sessions and go to like abandoned houses and stuff. I would say once I hit like my freshman year of high school, um, I started really like looking into it and stuff and educating myself. And then
mhm.
I became more afraid as things got more and more sinister and intense. And so then I started backing off. And then it just took a toll, like mentally, because I realized like how much of a threat this stuff can
Yeah,
actually
like
be.
you really
So
couldn't handle it.
no, and then that's a sensitive age too, like going into high school. Like once I hit high school, I was like, just that was the worst time because it was just a hard time in my life in general. I mean, those formative years are like really difficult,
Mhm.
and especially having like this weird stuff happen to me, it just really affected me. So that's when I decided, okay, this is not something I want. This is not something I want to mess with anymore. And even though I'm still interested in it and I'm still intrigued, I don't like go chasing it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, did any of your like throughout the different experiences you had, did you have any family members that came to you and told you like, "Oh, this happened," or like maybe your sister told you like, "Oh, this happened to me," and they
Yeah.
had experiences.
Yeah. So my mom said that the oven door like opened up completely on its own. Like she saw it out of the corner of her eye and she turned around and then it was fully open when it was closed.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she said that one time the fan, like the ceiling fan, was like wobbling, like as if it was just on, but it was just moving on its own. They heard footsteps, knocking, all that stuff. My mom's ex-husband saw like shadow figures. Um,
Wow.
I had friends that would stay the night and stuff that would say that they heard odd things. So it wasn't just me. Other people were
Yeah.
definitely experiencing it, and I'm planning on bringing. I just recorded a video with my mom. Actually, I just have to edit it
Oh,
and upload it. But I interviewed her and had her share
awesome.
some of her experiences. And yeah, I have a lot of people who I plan on bringing on the channel to kind of give their point of view. And it changed my best friend of she's been my friend for like 12 years now. It changed her from a non-believer and a skeptic to a full-blown believer,
Wow.
because things that she witnessed with me.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So that's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing those videos.
yeah. It's crazy when you can just, go from being a full-blown skeptic and have just hang out with someone and witness a few things, and her mind is made up. Like
Hmm.
she experienced a few things, and she's like, oh yeah, there's no doubt in my mind, that that's real now. But she didn't believe it at first. So
Yeah,
not
I
that she
don't
didn't
think
believe
anyone
me,
really
but
first believes it. Like when you're
yeah,
telling them the story, they're just like sitting there listening, but they don't really think there's a full like belief. Like, oh yeah, okay, I believe you.
yeah, they try to debunk it, or they think, a lot of people, I don't think that people assume that I'm lying. I think that people assume maybe I got my leg pulled, or like somebody tricked me, or
Hmm.
maybe I imagined it or
Yeah,
something,
like just the human mind, just like it was your perception of something that happened, but maybe it has a like a normal explanation to what you experienced. You
Yeah,
know,
and totally.
and
If
that's
it
just
that's
very
what.
human. That's very human for people to do, try to
Hi,
rationalize
buddy.
whatever's going on. Oh, he left you.
Yeah, he decided to crawl down onto the floor, which is fine. But yeah, I agree. It's up to everyone's interpretation. I
Hmm.
don't expect people to just believe me if they don't know me. The people that I know in my life that I interact with every day that I care about, they know me. They know I'm
Yeah,
not crazy. They know I'm not a liar. So like that's
yeah.
really what matters. That's what gave me the confidence to come on and just share my story, because the older that I get, like I'm 26 now, and I don't care about judgment anymore,
Hmm.
because I have the people in my life that are close to me that I care about, and they believe me, and so
And they lived
it's
some of it with you, so.
exactly, and so it's worth the risk. Like if people call me crazy, it's like okay, that's fine. It's not gonna hurt me. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Do you think it's like so much more creepy hearing like stories from people that you personally know, like your family, like when they told you that stuff happened? Does it make you more afraid? Like
yeah,
hearing
because
stories from people you know.
yes. When it's personal like that, it is more scary because I trust these people and I know them.
Mm.
So, I mean, hearing stranger stories is always like interesting and creepy, but when it's somebody that I know and I trust, that makes it even scarier because it's more validating. Like I know them and trust them. So,
Yeah,
it makes me less skeptical, like far less skeptical. So, just makes it so much more real and therefore, yeah, more scary.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I did an episode. I think it was like one of my first episodes that I did. I did a whole episode of different stories just from my family, and hearing some of their stuff that they went through, like different things that I never ever knew about. And they knew I was doing the channel, and so I asked them like, "Do you guys have ghost stories?" And a lot of my family members were willing to share with me stuff.
Yeah,
So, but hearing the stories from them was just like it just chills the entire time. And
yeah,
I did like live interviews, so I put my computer to record, and they told me their story. And if you ever get a chance to go back and watch that video, it's really interesting. I think it's like episode 7 or something like that.
okay.
Um, but there was one interview I did. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Oh no, you're good. I was keeping an eye on my lizard. He's running around.
There was one story with my sister-in-law that while we were recording, she was telling me a story about something that happened to her brother. And in the recording, and I'm so mad because I deleted it. there's
Huh.
such a strange thing that happened in the middle of the recording. Like, she was telling me the story, and we did it outside, and she got to this I don't wanna tell you the story, I kinda want you to, like, watch the episode.
Yeah, I want to watch it. Yeah, don't tell me what
So,
they did.
in the middle of the story, she's telling me, like, this really scary part, and it could have been just coincidence, but the wind outside picked up really, really hard. And me and her both, like, kind of froze, and we looked at each other, and she was like, "What the heck was that?" And I'm like, "I
Yeah,
don't know, but I'm freaked out." And
yeah.
then, there was another part of that same story with her brother. Her brother has some, like, dark stuff going on. Um,
Oh,
but there's another part where she's telling me, something that happened to him in her house, and you hear, like, something in the recording. Like, it was, like, some sort of growl or something like that, and I listened to it, like,
mm,
1,000 times because 'cause I'm like, "No, there's no way that we got that." And we could hear, like, a "grr," like a growl, and it was,
having
like,
the
for a
chills.
second. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
freaked me out so much, and I'm like, "I never knew that this stuff was happening to people that I personally know, that,
yeah.
well, I've known you guys forever, and I never knew this stuff was happening." So
People
it's
keep that stuff
definitely
secret.
creepier.
Yeah,
So
yeah, for sure. Especially when it's personal like that, because again, it's more validating. You
mhm.
hear a growl. I mean,
I mean, and
that's
it's just
scary.
if you go back and listen to the story, then you understand, like, why hearing the growl sound was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I fully believe in like demonic entities and things like that, like non-human entities. So with things like growling and sounds like that, that's like
It's creepy. It's
that's yeah, hearing like ghost voices and things like that, whatever, but you start getting dark like that, that's where it chills me to the bone and it's scary, like genuinely
yeah.
terrifying.
And it was if you go back and listen to the story, I can send you the link if you want.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but that story, like, even just narrating it, there were a few times that I had to stop and, like, watch something funny on TV or something because it was just it was dark. So
Definitely understand where you're coming from with that. Actually, I had a weird experience. You just reminded me. I was editing my second ghost story, and I have like a built-in library, like shelf, set up a bookshelf in my house. And as I'm editing it, and I was home by myself, I just got a weird feeling, and I heard what sounded like one of the books, like flop over, or like as if someone like pulled out and pushed it back in. And I'm
mm,
like, okay, that's weird, but it was windy outside, whatever. I'm not gonna like say, oh, it's it goes forever. Then it happened again, and it could have easily been something explainable. I don't know, but I got so freaked out. I stopped editing the video, and I called my boyfriend, and I'm like, hey, I just want to talk to you right now. Um, I was editing my video, and this happened, and again, it could have just been something totally normal, but yeah, recording things. Like this, talking about it, editing it.
mhm.
It's I feel like it puts me
It
in that
calls
mind.
it on.
Yes, 100%. I have so many stories where I was just talking about it with friends and stuff, and something happens because it's like they know, like
Yeah.
it's an opening for them. So I don't know. I haven't had any experiences in a long time, and when that happened, I'm like, I'm gonna burn some sage. I'm like, I don't want to bring anything into my house, like at
Mhm.
all. So if I ever stop, that's why. If the stuff starts up again that I got rid of and things get bad, I might have
Yeah.
to pump the brakes because it's just not, for me, it's not worth it. So I hope that that doesn't happen because I'm really enjoying this, but
Yeah.
that is a harsh
Well,
reality.
yeah, I hope it doesn't, I hope if something does happen, it'll be something like manageable for you,
Yes.
and not something like super serious, like,
Hmm.
like God forbid, nothing like that happens.
Yeah.
Because I do enjoy your channel.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. I mean, I would probably just switch up my content if things got dark again, like they did
Mhm.
before. I talked about it with my family and stuff, and they're like, if your videos can help people and you can warn people and educate them and share
Mhm.
what happened to you and use it for good and positivity, then do it. But if it
Yeah.
starts bringing negative energy towards you, then you're gonna have to like manage it. And
Yeah,
if it
draw the
becomes
line.
unmanageable, then yeah, that's how serious it is. Like I want to share and I want to continue to do what I do, but I'm not willing to let that stuff start happening again by any means. So
Mhm.
hopefully I can keep it under control.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, just winding down the video a little bit. Is it okay if I share with you a story of mine?
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay. So, so this is what I believe now that I'm an adult and not a little kid anymore. I think was my first ever, like, I can say that it was paranormal. This was
Mhm.
the first thing that, like, I was awake, it was vivid, like, I experienced it, I can validate that it wasn't just me being a scared little kid.
Mhm.
So, when I was younger, this happened, like, when I was 13, and, when we were younger, my parents moved around all over the place, and we had moved to, like, this, like, older house, like, I wanna say, like, early 70-ish house. It wasn't in that good of a condition. I never did research on the house because, I mean, I was a kid. I don't even remember the address of the house.
Yeah.
But, but the house was older and, like, it wasn't in that modern of a condition, but it didn't matter, it was just a house. And, during this time, my family was going through a lot of different, like, chaotic stuff, like, my mom was sick all the time, my parents were arguing all of the time, like, every
Yeah.
day. And, you're a kid, so you kinda just, close it out and just try to be normal.
Mhm.
So, it was, like, maybe, I wanna say, like, 2 or 3 months after we first moved in, I started noticing, like, weird little things happening. And, you automatically wanna assume that it's just your mind playing tricks on you, but
Yeah.
this one particular thing kept happening over and over again, that it became like a pattern. And, so the house, like, as soon as you walk in through the door, there's, like, the big living room, and then you have, like, this long hallway with the bedrooms, like my brother's room, and then, all the way at the end of the hall is the bathroom. And
Okay.
my room is right next to the bathroom, and my parents' room was directly across from my room. So I got used to, hearing my parents arguing all the time, whatever, and I
Yeah.
ignored it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember one night I woke up, I had to go to the bathroom. As soon as you open my bedroom door, the bathroom is right there in your face.
Mhm.
So I hear my parents, what I think is my parents arguing. So I'm like, whatever, same old, same old. Well, as soon as I open the door and I step into the hallway, everything is silent. Like, I don't hear anything. Oh, chills.
That's
I,
scary.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything. So I'm like, I'm kind of confused, and I'm like, what the heck was that? So I sneak over to my brother's room and I open his door and he's knocked out. It's like the middle of the night. It was like maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I sneak into I open my parents' bedroom door and they're sleeping. So I don't know what I was hearing. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what that was. And I hurry up and use the bathroom and I run back to my room and I close the door. And
Mhm.
nothing else happened that night.
Mhm.
But the next night, the same exact thing kept happening.
So it was repetitive.
It was
That's
like
scary.
muffled, far away arguing, like if my parents were arguing in their room,
Yeah.
and I couldn't understand what they were saying, but I could hear it, you know?
Oh, that's so
And
scary.
then again, like as soon as I would open my door, like no one was awake. So then, and that continued happening randomly, like over and over again through almost the entire time that we were in that specific house. And it didn't like, it got to the point where I got used to it and I started to ignore it.
Oh
But then
yeah.
the summer came and I was at home all the time and I used to I was an insomniac. I couldn't sleep.
Mhm.
So
As
like in the
funny.
summer it got even worse and I would stay up till almost the morning. So there was one night that I stayed up really, really, really late. And I'm like, "All right, I'm staying up too late, I have to go to sleep." So I turn off my TV, and I'm trying to force myself to go to sleep, but I'm, like, anxious in my room, and I don't know why, and I couldn't sleep, and I just forced my eyes closed, and then I start hearing it again, and I'm like, "Oh, no," and I'm listening to it, and then out of nowhere, it gets louder, Like, it sounded like there were 2 people in the front bedroom of my doorway, like, arguing with each other, and I'm like, "What the hell?" So
Yeah.
I'm scared, and then, like, all of a sudden, the voice started to move, like, the arguing started to move, and I'm like, I'm scared, like, I'm getting scared, but I'm like, like, when you're trying to listen really, really hard,
Yeah.
like, I almost stopped myself breathing because I was
Yeah.
trying to hear whatever it was saying, but
Yeah.
I couldn't understand nothing that it was saying. And then
That's
it moved from my front door to where my dresser was, and I'm, like, freaking out, and then
yeah.
it moved again to the front of my closet. My closet already freaked me out because my closet was, like, those old wooden panel closet doors that you can see through them.
The
You can, like,
shutters.
open them. Yeah.
Yeah. I know exactly
So
what you mean.
yeah, so I could see into my closet, so that already freaked me out. It's the middle of the night, I don't know what I'm hearing, and then it freaking like, I felt it, like, I don't know what it was like a vibration or something, move, like, right in front of the foot of my bed, and I'm like
Oh my
and
gosh.
I didn't have a night table, I had, like, a really crappy lamp on my bedroom dresser, so I leaped from my bed to my lamp, and I turned on my lamp.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm just like, my heart is like this, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, what the heck was that?" And then I get like I work up courage and I turn on my overhead light from my bedroom, and I'm just standing there, like I wasn't moving, I didn't move,
Yeah.
and like everything went quiet, like I didn't hear
Paralyzed
it
with
anymore.
fear.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm like, what the heck was that?
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
terrifying.
Yeah, and for like I was 13, yeah, I enjoyed horror and stuff like that and sci-fi with my mom and stuff, but she never taught me about paranormal stuff. Like she never
Yeah.
sat down and talked to me about like stuff. So I didn't know
Yeah.
what it was. And then after that, which this kind of stemmed from that experience, I cannot sleep without background noise. I
Really?
I have to sleep with the TV on, with music, with some kind of background noise because I can't sleep if it's silent in the house.
Yeah. I was
And
like that for a long time too.
yeah, and after that happened, like I slept with my headphones on, I slept with my TV on, I slept with like to try to like not listen to it.
Distract, yeah.
And that never happened again. That was that one time. And I think now, like thinking about it now, I think that it knew that I could hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise, why did it do that to me? Like, why
Yeah,
did that happen? And I feel
exactly.
like it kinda knew that I was in tuned to
Mhm.
whatever it was, and it
Mhm.
wanted me to know that it knew that I could hear it,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah, after that, like, I've always been adamant I cannot sleep with no sound in the house, like I
There's a
said.
lot of people that are like that, especially
Yeah.
people that had experiences like this because
Yeah.
it's trauma. It really is trauma. I mean, people don't understand the type of like PTSD that you can genuinely get from this type of stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
it's traumatic. The stuff that happened to me growing up, it was traumatic. And
Yeah.
there was a point where I dropped out of school because I
Wow.
was not sleeping. Um, I was really depressed. I was in just a low spot. And I went on independent study because I just could not get up in the morning to go to school. I would basically stay up all night, like you said, and then sleep during the day. And my mom fought me on it at first, but then she realized like I just couldn't sleep. It affected me so much I could not sleep. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to sleep until it was daytime. I was on a completely different schedule in high school
Yeah.
and I
It's tough.
yeah,
Mhm.
it really
Yeah,
is.
it was really hard, like, and I remember, like, now that I'm older and I have more knowledge about stuff like this, I'm like, "That was paranormal. That was
Oh,
paranormal."
for sure,
Because I
100%.
remember, like, we didn't last, like we were only there for, like, about 8 months or so, and then we
Yeah.
moved to a townhouse, and it never happened again.
Oh,
So
so
it
you
was
think it was
there.
the
It
house?
was
It
the
was
house.
something
It
that
was
was
there at that
there.
house,
Okay,
so
at least
I
you didn't escape it.
yeah.
That's nice that you escaped it and then it
I mean,
didn't
I've
follow
had
you.
other stuff happen to me, like, randomly throughout my life. It's just something that, like, I never really talked about it with other people, but
Yeah.
you know, I didn't find out till I was like 20 something that both sides of my family, they're sensitive to stuff like
Mhm.
it just happens,
Mhm.
and I didn't know that until I was a lot older, and now it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, thanks for
Yeah.
telling me.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's kind of a cool perspective too, like to look into your family history, like that's something I want to do more of and kind of figure out like did I
Mhm.
have people in my family that practiced something, some type of witchcraft, or were they into the occult of some like some
Mhm.
kind, like was there mediums in my family, or this is something that I don't know necessarily. My
Yeah,
mom has always been interested in it and sensitive to it, but I mean, it can go back, hundreds of years. You don't know.
you don't
So
know.
that's so interesting to.
Yeah, I mean, I found out when I got older, I found out a little bit more, like especially the women on my dad's side, they're very intuitive with stuff, and
Yeah.
I have an aunt that like it affected her so much, like in a negative way, 'cause she was
Mhm.
like she couldn't turn it off. She couldn't shut it out.
Oh,
Like
that
me, like I
sucks.
figured out a way to like keep my atmosphere positive so that I don't
Yeah.
have to pay attention to it, you know?
Yeah.
So I figured that out eventually after
Mhm.
like more stuff kept happening and stuff like that, and I couldn't
Yeah.
explain what was going on. But I found out more, and I'm like, oh, that's super interesting. And then I go back and think like, oh, well, that happened to me back then, and this happened to me.
Mhm.
I'm like, is that why stuff was happening?
Yeah.
I don't really know.
It's
So
probably in your blood. I
probably,
think that there are certain people that are just more susceptible naturally, and
yeah. Even though like
obviously,
I also believe like all of us are capable of getting in touch with that side of
yeah,
ourselves.
me too. I believe the same.
Mhm.
But I think that people have to make that choice and turn it on. If
Yeah.
you're closed minded to it, then most likely it's not going to happen. Which some people are good with that. They don't want it to. They're very
Yeah.
like I have friends at work and stuff that are like, I love you and I support you, but I do not watch your paranormal videos. I don't want anything to do with it. It scares me. I am like not
Yeah.
offended by it at all. I totally get it. They don't want anything to do with any of that because they don't want their mind even on that subject.
Mhm.
So I totally get it, and they don't have experiences they never have.
Yeah.
So there's people out there that can control that and
Mhm.
go lots and lots and
And
lots of years, not
And
their
I
whole
also
life.
think that that's a good thing that, you have people like that in your life that are firmly grounded
Yep.
in reality and will check you if you
Yeah.
think like, you're going crazy or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can kind of reel you back in.
Yes.
So,
Exactly. It's good to
so
have
that's all,
skeptical people. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, okay. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed our paranormal chat.
Yeah, me too. This was so awesome.
So,
I'm so happy we did this.
before yeah, so before we say goodbye, again, I will leave a link for your channel in the description so my listeners can check you out.
Thank you.
Is there anywhere that you would like for them to go to get in touch with you or a
Yeah,
social
so I would
page?
love it, obviously, if you guys checked out my YouTube channel, which, as she said, will be linked below. You can also find me on Instagram at Marissa, Marissa _Wight, WIGHT 0101. I do also have a TikTok. If you want to follow me on TikTok, it's more comedy based. And my TikTok name is MISSRISS 0101. So Miss Riss 0101. If you guys want to check out some more lighthearted content, it's not as dark.
Okay, and I'll include that also in the description box.
Thank
So,
you. Yeah, I'm just joining social media again. I've been out of it for years. I didn't have any type of Instagram or Facebook or anything for a long time, and now I'm jumping back into it. So started from the bottom.
yeah, yeah. It's a good resource for you to reach out to other people that are interested in the same topics.
Definitely, definitely is. Yeah.
Okay, well, happy Halloween.
Yeah. Happy Halloween to you too.
Yeah, so I hope that we'll be able to get in touch again and I can do something on your channel. So
Yes,
I'll look forward to
definitely.
that.
Yeah, me too. Stay tuned, guys.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.